recording. Okay. All right. Notice the last thing we were talking about was the changes. What's her name? Diwana went through in France. And it's not a coincidence that these changes in her character started 2 weeks after she had arrived in Antibes. Antibes, the name, yeah, and the name of the city. And what I'm interested in, as you notice, right from the beginning, I told you there is a relationship, interconnection, in other words, a relationship between colonialism and racism. You know, everybody knows Mandela. Mandela had a very, very famous saying in which he says, people are not born racist. You know what I'm saying? It's not in our genes. You know, it's not in our blood that we are born racist. We are made racist, made by culture, society, etc. You know what I'm saying? Then you become conscious. So if you are not born racist, you become racist later on. So this is what happens with Diwana. Diwana, she goes to France, and she in Senegal, when she was in Senegal, if you remember, she was not that conscious of the racist attitude of the French family. She just wanted to work, she's poor, and that's it. She even likes the family. That's what she says. But as soon as she arrives in France, the center, Senegal is the periphery. Don't forget these words, okay? She's from the periphery, the margin. She's from Senegal. As soon as she arrives in France, notice it takes her 2 weeks. Her consciousness starts changing. And she becomes conscious of the problem. Notice I am using inverted commas because it's not a problem. But in France, it is a problem. The problem with the color of her skin. What I want you, my friends, to think about is in our culture, relate that to our culture. Mainstream culture likes what? White skin more than black skin, or let me say light skin more than dark skin. Why is that? Are we born with this idea, or we are brought up to think like that? Okay, if we agree that we are brought up to think like that, that means it is, some of us think it's natural. No, it is not natural. What is beautiful, if you think that because the color of your skin is white and therefore you are beautiful, well, there is something wrong with that. Because if you go to Africa, it's the opposite. Beauty is relative. So the question is, and that is the serious question that we are discussing now in this story. We said that there is a relationship between colonialism and racism. What in our culture, since we are talking about our culture, what made us like that? Before British and French colonialism, before Ottoman even colonialism, were we like that? Did we really pay attention to the color of the skin? Or, here is the point now, here is the point. You remember the names I mentioned: Frantz Fanon, Amilcar Cabral, etc., Nelson Mandela, Steve Biko. Frantz Fanon says, we as colonized, notice, black people or brown people like us, Palestinians and Arabs, we develop an inferior complex. You remember the example I gave you about Michael Jackson? You look at your skin, you notice that it is not as white as that of the colonizer. The world for you, everything that is beautiful is white. Angels are white, all right, when you think about it. And then when you think, all right, you say, it's terrible, it's dark, it's, all right, everything that is bad is dark. And then you develop, psychologically, you develop a complex in which you dislike everything that is not white. The whiter, the better. That's what the colonial master tells you. You look at your skin, you notice that it's not as white or as light as it should be. So you develop a kind of schizophrenia, or as we say in Arabic, schizophrenia. All right? Schizophrenia. Well, you are dark, but inside your head, you want to be white. And this is why the title of one of Frantz Fanon's books, one of his best books, Allah yarhamu, of course, Frantz Fanon, is, I wrote it to you last time, I'm going to write it again, Black Skin, White Masks. Right? Okay. So what's the title of our story? The title of our story is Black Girl. In fact, I must tell you this out of a personal experience. I was not that conscious of the importance of race and the color of the skin. Yeah, I never had that attitude towards race, etc., etc., until I visited. Actually, I lived in South Africa. I became race conscious. When you talk to somebody about a person, the first question they would ask you is, that black person, that white person. You know what I'm saying? Okay, so I became conscious of that. And then I started reading, of course, Frantz Fanon, even Edward Said. Edward Said, in some of his, one of his best books about, the relationship between the West and the East, especially us Arabs, is, okay, I want you to know titles as well. Orientalism by Edward Said. The second book is Culture and Imperialism. Do I want you to know titles? Yes. Yes. Black Skin, White Mask was written by Frantz Fanon. Orientalism and Culture and Imperialism were written by Edward Said. And you can find discussions about, race issues in relation to colonialism. And this is our story. This is how I understand and interpret and discuss with you Black Girl. Okay, so it's not a coincidence now you understand that it's not a coincidence that the title is related to the color of Diwana's skin. Notice the title is not Diwana, her name, because the emphasis, ya Sabaya Shabab, is more on her race, on the color of her skin. That's the emphasis. That's where she has been so far. That's the sphere, the area where she has been, or her identity has been defined. It's exactly like you as a woman or as a man deciding to go to Israel, Palestine, 1948 Palestine. And then they don't say, when they meet you, Israelis, when they meet you, they don't say he's Palestinian, they say Arab. He's an Arab. You lose your Palestinian identity. And I want you to think about what I'm saying in relation to what I told you about being voiceless or fighting to have a voice. And if you have a voice, who controls that voice? All right? Think about yourselves. Sometimes you ladies, when when somebody proposes and you want to marry, then you say, no, I have no opinion. It's my father's opinion. Where's your voice? Where's your voice? Even us men, all right? You say, okay, my mom is going to find a beautiful girl for me. What happened to your voice? How do you define your identity? This is your life. You know what I'm saying? This is your life. So the question now, she wants to define her own identity 2 weeks after arriving in France, and then she starts questioning things. And I'm asking this question to you, ya shababu, ya sabaya. What alternatives does she have? What alternatives? The only way out for her was can she go back? No. Can she run away? No. If she runs away, where should she go? What does she know about France? In the first half of the story, she's fascinated with everything that is French, with everything that is white. That is white. Complex. Terrible complex. That's the psychological dimension created by colonialism, ya sabaya, ya shabab. You understand what I'm saying? That is the burden we carry on our shoulders as colonized people. We develop schizophrenia, انفصام في الشخصية. You see? So now the problem, because you are taking this course, you become conscious of it. And then you become color conscious, race conscious, and you say, no, I'm not going to be a slave. No, I don't give a damn about the color of my skin, about this and that. This, I know how to define my identity, maybe as an individual, as a human being, away from racial definitions, which are, unfortunately, which are racist. Racist. Let's look at the text now. So I want you to think about these things with me. Okay, think about it. While I'm reading, I want you to have it in the background. When the little boys, the children, start tormenting her, black girl, they start chanting, black girl, black girl. Look at, can you see the screen? Tell me before I start reading.
Yes, yes.
You can? Okay, excellent. You know, they developed like an organized mafia, a gang. But the woman, their mother, is saying, oh, you've got to keep them happy. Okay? But they torment her. They torture her. The oldest, we studied this last time, we discussed it, but let me repeat because it's part of the idea that I'm discussing with you now. The oldest boy, a real scamp, you know, very naughty, recruited others of like inclination, not only his brothers, he brought his friends, who most probably were teenagers. And you know, teenagers, they want to explore. There they have a woman, she's not white, she's dark, she's black. So it's like her being Africa. You see, Africa like a woman, that woman, Diwana, is like Africa. You see what I'm saying? All right? And they want to explore that. Diwana was, notice the savage, Africa. All right? When Christopher Columbus, you know Christopher Columbus, of course, when he discovered America, of course, America had always been there. America had Native Americans, its people, like Palestine. In Palestine, they say, notice comparative literature, Zionists say an empty land for a land without a people for a people without a land, right? You remember that. شعب بلا أرض لأرض sorry أرض بلا شعب لشعب بلا. All right. In America, the same thing. Christopher Columbus and all the other butchers and criminals called it, you know, paradise. They also called the promised land, also Ard al-Mi'ad, the promised land. Look at this. Look at the similarities. And then when they found out that there are people living there, in the land of sad oranges, what happened? Ethnic cleansing, مش هيك? Right? The land of sad oranges, ethnic cleansing, تطهير. And massacres. Massacres. In America, genocide. That's it. All right. So when they found out those Native Americans, they don't call them Red Indians. That is racist. They are not Indians. They are the real Americans. They are Native Americans. What did Europeans say about them? They call them, you know, they call them barbarians or savages. You know the word savage, savages. Okay. For this little boy, French boy, and his friends, Diwana was the savage. The savage can never be white, can never be European. Right? The savage is always black or brown skinned like us. Okay, you get the point. So they wanted to explore. The children pestered her, tortured her, made her life like hell. Once in a while, the eldest got a good spanking, having picked up phrases from the conversations of mama, papa, or the neighbors back in Africa. Notice, so as a boy, as a child, he must have learned. He was not born racist. Clear? Even some of us, yani, sorry to say this, some of us have that kind of mentality. أنا مواطن, أنا لاجئ, أنا I don't know, أنا غزاوي, أنا فلاح, that is nonsense. That's nonsense. That's not your identity. You should be proud of your identity without belittling other identity and other people. All right? But I'm not talking about that. That's a stereotype. What we are talking about here, we are talking about racist stereotypes, racism. تنميطات, صور نمطية, you know what I'm saying? Stereotypes. So having picked up phrases from the conversations of mama, papa, or the neighbors back in Africa, phrases in which notions of racism, racial prejudice, I am white, I am better than you. And you are my servant, you are my slave. You are ugly, you are stupid, etc. Why? Because you are non-white. Racism. Israel, Palestine, the same thing. The same thing. And this is why Nelson Mandela was arrested and spent how many years? 27 years on Robben Island, a horrible jail with his comrades and fighters, other freedom fighters, because he fought against this, like us. Like Maher al-Akhras now. Maher al-Akhras is fighting for what? Today, he has been on a hunger strike for 99 days. 99 days. Only in racist countries, this thing happens. Only in racist countries, this thing happens. And look at it, it's racial prejudice. Racial prejudice, that's what it is. And I need you to be able to define it, okay? Racism and racial prejudice. The boy made exaggerated remarks to his pals. His pals are his friends, without without the knowledge of his parents, they would turn up chanting, "Black girl, black girl." Look at this. She is as black as midnight. Terrible, terrible racism. And by the way, racism has become, in international law, a crime against humanity. So that means Israel is committing crimes against humanity. Okay? All right. So here, but this is in 1958, when Senegal was under colonialism. That was almost the end of the colonial era. Almost the end of the colonial era. You know, after the Second World War, colonialism started collapsing. Okay. So what happened to Diwana's consciousness? Everything grew blunt, almost dark. Or that she was not that happy girl. Her old dreams, you remember her dreams, of course, we discussed that. Her contentment eroded. She's not satisfied with anything. She's unhappy. She's unhappy. She's not happy with anything. Nothing whatsoever. Nothing whatsoever. She did a lot of hard work. It was she who did all the cooking. You remember back in Senegal, there were three. You remember the cook, the boy, and Diwana. Now she did all the cooking, laundry, babysitting, ironing. In Senegal, she did only one or two things, that's it. Here she's doing everything in Senegal. Exploitation. This is class exploitation. We are talking about class now. Race and class. You are black, you are poor. And of course, she's a woman. Look at that. 1, 2, 3. Right? Madam's sister came to stay at the villa, making 7 people to look after. Wow. 7 people to look after. So it was not enough to have the madam and the monsieur and the children. Now they have the sister. At night, as soon as she went up to bed, Diwana slept like a log. Why? Tired. Exhaustion. She's very tired. She's very exhausted. The venom was poisoning her heart. Venom, poison. What is that venom? I want you to underline this sentence. This is a metaphor, okay? And I want you to think about it. As we are reading, you will understand. So she's not as happy as she used to be. And she started changing, and the venom was poisoning her heart. She had never hated anything before. And now there is nothing to like. There is nothing to love. Before that, she had never hated anything. Everything was happy for her because she was not conscious. It's like some of us. You remember last time we discussed it. I don't like politics. أنا بحبش السياسة. الحيط الحيط يلا الستر, as we say in Arabic, right? Yeah, but does that mean that you are not an oppressed person? That you are not under colonialism? That you are not under Israeli apartheid, under settler colonialism? That you belong to a family of refugees? That in 1948, Israel killed so many Palestinians in 1967? The Great March of Return, the wars on Gaza, and then you come and tell me, no, I don't like to talk about politics. I want just to watch NBC and that's it. And live happily ever after. That was Diwana before going to France. That is some of us here in Palestine who refuse to understand reality and who refuse to see it, to see that reality. They just want to eat, go to university, then go home, get 100 out of 100, memorize, يحفظ الدرس, then go to the exam, graduate from university, marry, have children, and that's it. So what's the meaning of life? And what's the meaning of death? We never ask these questions. And unfortunately, some of us think that is life. So what does Diwana? Diwana is in France. She should be happy, happier than all of us. She's in France. All right. We are in Gaza. We are in Senegal. We are in dark Africa. All right. Or Gaza. What is Gaza? I mean, for God's sake, she should be happy. Now, that's not the point. Okay, so that's the question now. What happened to her consciousness? We said she used to have what kind of consciousness? False consciousness. False consciousness. Until the venom starts poisoning her heart. Like some of us, when we start reading, studying things, not only reading what we take at the university, no. When we start seeing reality from a different perspective, then actually what seems good is not that good. What appears to be beautiful is not that beautiful. The venom starts poisoning your heart. She had never hated anything. Everything became monotonous. Wake up in the morning, then do this, do that, do this, do that, and then go to bed and sleep. What's the meaning of life? Everything has become monotonous. Where was France? Well, she's in France. Not really, not really. Where are the beautiful cities she had seen at the movies in Dakar? At the movies. It's like us, we watch NBC Bollywood and we think that's India or that's Egypt. I remember when I was very young, you know, before Tawjihi, and then after I finished Tawjihi, I went to Egypt and I thought that all Egyptian women would look like Suad Husni, for example, all right? Or like, you know, you think everybody's Amr Diab. No, no. So she used to go to the movies and see the beautiful cities when she was in Dakar. Where are these beautiful cities? The rare foods, where are the rare foods? The interesting crowds, where are they? The population of France reduced itself to these spiteful monsters. Who are these spiteful monsters? The boys, the children. That's France. The spiteful monsters, Monsieur, Madame, and Mademoiselle. Who's the Mademoiselle? The Madame's sister, who had become, okay, here is the point. That's why this is the beginning of the answer about venom. What about them? Who had become strangers to her. Do you know why strangers? Because that's what they are. Before that, when she was in Senegal, she did not know them as people, as colonizers who exploit her. Now she's becoming conscious. Aha. Oh my God, I don't know these people. I spent some time with them in Senegal and I thought that I knew them. And now they had become strangers. Now, this is important. This is very important, this change. The country seemed limited to the immediate surrounding of the villas. That's France. The country is France. And France is the villa and the surroundings of the villa. It's like some of us. We never leave Khan Yunis. We never leave Gaza. We never leave Rafah. And for us, that is Palestine. Is that Palestine? Oh, Palestine is very ugly. Actually, no. Palestine is very beautiful, but we have never been to Palestine. The rest of Palestine. Gaza is only 1.8 of Palestine. 1.8%, of course, of Palestine. All right? So the country seemed limited to the immediate surroundings of the villa. Little by little, she was drowning in the sea of alienation. Alienation. She's like a stranger now in this country. Alienation. I'm writing here, okay? Little by little, she was drowning. The wide horizons of a short while ago stopped now at the color of her skin. That is the center of her life. The center of her life, the center of her world is the color of her skin, black, which suddenly filled her with an invincible terror. She became terrified. Terrified. She looks at her. She know in Senegal she was surrounded. The family, everybody loved her. Everybody was black. All right. She never felt there was a problem with the color of her skin. And now she looks at it. Everybody said, black girl, black girl. She was terrified. Her skin. Her skin is the source of the invincible terror. Her blackness, identity, the source, the root of her identity is her blackness. Her blackness, the color of her skin. That is the problem. How can she solve it? Michael Jackson wanted to change the color of his skin. That's why he had so many plastic surgeries. Some of us use whitening cream. That's why in India and Palestine and the Gulf region in Africa, women all the time use whitening cream because they don't want to look dark. Because that's a complex. It's a complex that we have inherited from the era of colonialism. Instead of being proud of the way you were created by God, you had no saying in choosing the color of your skin, and you have to be proud of that. That's part of who you are. That's part of your identity. Notice, because it's so important, the narrator says her skin, that's one sentence. So of course it's not a sentence, but it is used as a sentence here. Full stop. Her skin, full stop. Her blackness, full stop. That is the essence of the problem. Her blackness. Timidly, she, instead of opening up to the world and becoming friendly with everybody who didn't want to be friendly with her, she retreated into herself. All right? Isolated herself. Stop talking to people around her, to the family, of course. And extremely sad. This is very important for our understanding. If you want to sum up the story, you see this paragraph. This is why we spent most of our meeting discussing this. Notice, it's not about finishing one paragraph and then, no. I want to finish discussing an idea. I wanted to concentrate on the idea itself in relation, of course, to the story and the context. Look how terrible colonialism is. In fact, it alters, changes our psyche. It alters our psyche. I am sure we wouldn't be the same if Israel did not exist. We would be different people. You know what I'm saying? We do have terrible complexes. Look at Diwana, this beautiful girl, lovely girl from Senegal. How happy she is. And now we have a completely different Diwana. Completely different Diwana. And this is why she retreated into herself. This is the new Diwana who goes through these changes. Quickly, one more paragraph and we will stop. With no one from her universe to exchange ideas. What is her universe? The colonized world, Africa, Senegal, the black world. All right? With no one from her universe to exchange ideas with, she held long moments of palaver with herself. She started not talking to anybody and thinking inwardly. A week ago, Monsieur and Madame had cleverly taken her along to visit their relative in Cannes. Let me stop here, because what is happening here is also very, very important. So they decide, the family, the Madame and Monsieur decide to take her with them to visit a family, their family. So it's like, this is the first time she leaves the villa, and you will see what happens there. Okay, we will finish it inshallah, not tomorrow, the day after tomorrow, and then I'll have another class. We have a discussion and we discuss about the exam and what I'm going to ask you and all of that. But what I'm interested in, Ya Sabaya wa Shabab, I really want you to understand what we are talking about. I really want this to help you understand yourself, understand politics, etc., etc. I want you to learn something. So don't think too much about, okay, exam results, etc., etc. We will talk about that. But that is not why you are taking this course. You are taking this course because you want to learn something. You understand what I'm saying? Because I really want you to learn something. Culture, ideas, ideology, etc., and language, of course. And this is why we use only English.